Ladies and gentlemen, All Saints Catholic Church in Dallas, Texas welcomes you to All Saints Coffee Chats.
And we are live. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us for episode 35 of All Saints Coffee Chats. I'm always going to say it like a question because, why not?
Why change it now?
Exactly.
Happy New Year. We hope you all had a fantastic Christmas season, which just, I guess just ended. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Happy belated 12th night to all you Louisianians, carnival celebrating friends out there. I think Texas-wise, Joanna Martin looking at you. Yeah. New Year's off to a great start. We're, 7 days in?
Yeah. Survived so far. So.
Yes. It's always better than the alternative.
We have made it.
Good.
Someone made a joke of 7 days. I've enjoyed my 7-day subscription and I want to return it.
Right.
I was like,
free
yeah.
trial is up, actually.
Yeah, don't forget your questions. Any questions that you have for us along the way. New Year's, whatever related. Anything's on the table. We may not answer it, but you can ask it.
It's a new year.
It's a new year.
All new questions.
Exactly.
Maybe even, but I mean, we do revert to a few old things. But, like reverting to our favorite questions that we always ask. Anybody have new saints?
That was a good segue.
Yeah, I like it.
It was a segue.
No chimpanzee.
It was
But
good.
there was no chimpanzee riding on the Segway.
So, wasn't that great? Has to be.
Wasn't the best.
chimpanzee.
Way to ruin my Segway there.
Sorry.
What fault?
Way to ruin
Totally.
2020.
One.
Chimpanzees.
One.
Riding on the Segway. No, 2021 was not when that video was shown to me and made me want to pierce my eyeballs with toothpicks. But yeah, great video. If you
It brought
haven't
some
seen
joy
it,
into your
good for
life.
you.
And if you have not shared that with someone else and brought joy into their life, then what are you doing with yourself?
There you go.
There you go.
Just saying.
If you want people to continue to be in your life, don't show them that video. That would be my recommendation.
Hey guys, it worked okay for me. The people I showed it to are still in my life. They're stuck with me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Back to Saint here.
back to the people that we're stuck with for the rest of our lives. That we're thankfully stuck with, that will help us get to heaven, hopefully.
That
Anybody have new saint friends that they've found?
that was also a segue.
Not as good as a segue.
But yeah.
Okay,
Well, she tried once.
Moving on.
She tried again. I'm gonna help her this time.
Yeah. Is
Okay,
that like
I lost it for a second, but I got it back. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
came
So
up
just this
recently.
week, yep.
Yeah. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's the first saint from the United States.
Yeah.
Right? She opened a lot of great schools. The something for religious women, St. Joseph's. I lost it. But she's amazing, and I think just after all of 2020 and after what's happening into the new year, I think she's a really great saint to look into for just peace and education. I think she's a really, really great, strong person, strong woman to look to. So, get to know her. I think she's pretty good.
Awesome. Thanks. What about you, Andrew? Anybody new?
Or
Old?
Yeah, old in a way. I was thinking about St. George. He's my confirmation saint.
Yeah.
And I was looking up actually something for St. Sebastian for an upcoming faith formation lesson, and found a cool painting of like St. Sebastian and St. George hanging out, which I don't know if that happened, but like they're kind of the similar stories and time periods. So, but yeah, he's somebody I've been thinking about, just like the virtue of courage and simplicity and all of that stuff. So he's always somebody I'm kind of in the back of my mind, but somebody I've been thinking about recently.
Cool. What about you, Paul?
I would actually, looking at different reflections over the last couple of weeks, Basil the Great stands out as a great teacher of the church, and tried to introduce truth, like capital T truth, to the world at a very early stage. And so just always going back to, like, with us teaching apologetics and different things like that, finding those people who were passionate about truth and making sure that people understood what that truth was is always people that I kind of look to. So, yeah.
Awesome.
How about you?
Yeah, so this week, in addition to Elizabeth Ann Seton having a feast day memorial, yesterday was the memorial of Saint Andre Bessette.
Mm-hmm.
And just in looking to further into his life, and I've looked at his life before, but just kind of being reminded of that, he was sick all throughout his like early childhood, young adulthood, and like never could hold a job or get a job or anything like that. And so because of his, I guess, poorer health, no one really wanted to take him, and like not knowing how his health would, I guess, eventually fail him. And so he went and tried to join the religious order of, I believe, Holy Cross. And they initially told him no. And then finally, I think in the next year, accepted him into the order and made him the doorman. And, you know, you kind of think, oh, you're the doorman. But, like, everybody that came to the door, like, he received them with joy. And so, like, he was just known for the people he would take care of, like, when they came to the door. And then he continued, I think throughout his life, he developed a greater devotion to St. Joseph. And so through that, he always said, like, if you pray to St. Joseph, like, it'll happen. And so, like, there was a story I'd found on, like, them needing a bigger chapel or something of the sort. And so I think he took, like, a St. Joseph statue. And people were like, oh, well, you're not going to get what you need, like. And he was like, no, St. Joseph is here. He'll take care of it. And sure enough, he, like, put a St. Joseph statue, like, where they wanted to build the chapel, and they got everything they needed to build the chapel. And he was like, he's got it. So just to have that faith and that joy in everything that he did, it was like it didn't matter if he was like taking care of sick people or he was answering the door, like he just brought that joy of the Lord with him. So just to kind of take it as an inspiration. So yeah, it was just fun to like read more about his life, which I think I'm going to see what more I can find out about him. Because he ended up living until he was like 92, which is crazy for someone that struggled with their health all throughout their life. And then he was just, I think, canonized in the last decade or so. I think it was like 2009, 2010 that he was canonized, which is cool. Yeah. Some of those more, I guess, modern day-ish saints.
Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool.
Well, I can imagine how much confidence and courage it takes to literally just, like, have that much faith in St. Joseph to put a statue out and be like, like, if you did that now, I mean, even I'm sure if you did that then too, but people would look at you like, are you serious?
Right, are you serious?
Yeah, sure, this is going to work.
I wonder
is
that
I can't even...
where we started getting the tradition of like burying St. Joseph under our houses when we were trying to sell them?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
If not, it's a pretty good example of it working though.
Right. Yeah.
I need to figure out where that came from.
Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
it's
I don't know where
Italian.
that started.
It's very Italian.
But it's funny to me, like even like we love the people up at Sacred Heart, but yeah, at the bookstore, like they have the little St. Joseph. I sent one to my parents when they were selling their house like 15 years ago, and they buried it in the backyard.
Did you bury it upside down?
Yeah.
You got buried upside down.
It's it's such a weird thing. Like, where did this Catholic tradition come from?
Yeah.
If anybody knows, please let us know.
Yep.
If you're just joining us, welcome. We are excited to be back here on Coffee Chat all together. We're glad you're joining us. If you have questions, as always, please put them there in the comments section. We will be happy to get to those along the way. We're just chatting about the new year, saints that we've found in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Paul, do you have a saint?
Yes. Basil the Great.
Wow.
I already said that.
You did say that.
Great.
Good. Just making sure. Just making sure.
Testing you.
Just
Good.
following
What
up.
did
Do
I
you
call me
remember
out?
what?
Right answer.
Thyme, oregano, basil. It was
That's the
basil.
one. That's the one. Okay.
I knew it was something spicy. Yeah, Basil the Great.
Basil
Yes.
spicy?
I don't
No.
think it's.
No, but it's
No.
a spice.
It's a
Or,
spice.
or,
Oh,
is
okay,
it
I
an,
was
like-
or is it an herb?
What kind of
Ish.
basil have I been eating?
Like-
Wacky.
Is it an herb or a spice?
I think it's an.
I don't know.
take.
I don't know the.
Internet, help us out.
We have more questions for them than they do for us.
this week it's just our question.
Yeah.
Just
There are 6 of you out there. I don't know who you are, but you should say hello in the comment
At least
section
I'm-
because Facebook doesn't tell us these things. So
Also
you should
true.
tell us who you are because we want to know. Just say hello. Hi. Happy
Who are
New
you?
Year.
How you doing? How was your New Year? How's your holiday?
How was Christmas? How
Yeah.
was Epiphany?
Yeah. Did you mark your door? 20 CMB 21.
I forgot
Oh,
to
yeah?
do that.
Yeah.
I did not.
It's good blessing.
I probably should do that.
It's a good way to like scare your neighbors. Like you write that over your door and they're like, "What is possessed in that
Did you
home?"
do it outside or inside?
Huh? Oh,
Did you
do it outside.
Oh,
Freak
yeah.
them out. Why would my neighbors be inside?
Yeah. I was standing on a chair outside my apartment door
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it while people were passing, and I just.
You could have like
feel-
spray
Nice.
painted.
I'm
it.
like worried about my
Yeah.
handwriting and the way it.
But
Make
like,
sure it
why
looks
is
good.
anyone that close to your door?
Oh no, we
that
write
they
it in
can
like
see
block
it?
letters.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like carve it into the.
Yeah,
wood.
I'm gonna start carving it into doorposts around me
Nice.
for other people's sake.
There you go.
So,
Very cool.
So speaking of the Magi, and yesterday was the Epiphany.
no, keep going. Come on, I believe in you. Paul blurt out a segue. Yeah, so speaking of things that people have read, there's a
People
book,
have
it's
read-
called the Bible.
There is a
I
book
don't know
called
if
the
you guys have
Bible.
heard of it. Yeah. For our viewers out there, it's the most sold book in the world.
It
It's
is.
Number one
It is.
bestseller
One
every
time-
week for the last
One
2,000
time.
years.
I saw an ad for something you could purchase,
A
and it
Bible?
was, a Bible you could
No,
purchase
okay.
online,
Mhm.
and it was signed by the author.
Interesting.
Wait. What?
And I was like, wait a second.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are still on the internet and looking at autographed Bibles,
Please get
stop.
off.
don't
Close the laptop. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. So,
Interesting.
speaking
So things that you
of-
like to read in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not?
Any scripture that you found relevant or speaking to you lately, Paul?
Yeah, so 1 John chapter 2, there's a passage that's being written to the community and talking about how we respond in faith and our understanding. But what stood out to me is that John says twice in about 3 verses. 2 of the verses are, "Fathers, you know who the Almighty is, the Creator." And he says, "Children, you know this, stay strong, young men, in the faith against the evil one." And again he says, "Fathers, you know who is the God who is before you." And that just, it really stood out to me. A couple weeks ago I heard it in a reflection, and I was like, why did he write the same sentence, like word for word, twice in such a short amount of space? And I think what John was doing was talking to people in different stages of their faith life, but I think it really struck me that it was like, very specifically, he was like, fathers, be aware of this. And it's like, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing my job as a father to pass the faith on to the kids and to let them know that, like, it's okay to have that. We talk about gifts of the Spirit, the fear of the Lord, the awe and wonder of the might of God who created the heavens and the earth. And I think I heard that like right around the same time as we had the aligning of Jupiter and Saturn, which happened on Christmas Eve. The superstar that some people were talking about, like, was this what the Magi saw in the sky? So hearing that while that was happening, I was kind of like, okay, I understand the message that is being passed on. Thank you. So, how about you guys?
We were looking through the readings the other day, and there's a bunch of options for Sunday coming up for the baptism of the Lord, and one of them was Isaiah 55. We checked; it's not the one we're going to read at Mass, so fine.
Yep.
But all the more reason for me to mention it now. I had a personal kind of important prayer experience with it a few years ago. It's one of the readings for the Easter Vigil, or one of the options. I don't know if there's options there too, but it's just talking about like trusting that God's going to do what He says, and that you don't know what He's thinking. Like that's where originally my phrase, my thoughts are above your thoughts, and my ways are above your ways.
Yep.
And then it ends with just as the rain and the snow come down from the heavens, and they don't return until they've achieved their purpose, so will my word be. And just kind of that promise of like, yeah, whatever it is that you're waiting on God to do, or you're really hoping that would happen, like God's going to take care of you in the way that He knows, and that's going to be the best way. So that's something that I've always, that's always been an important verse for me.
Yeah.
I think going with because I was thinking of the baptism of the Lord too for the readings for this upcoming Sunday, and just thinking a lot about baptism. So this all ties together. I watched Soul last night.
Nice.
Super, super good. But the entire movie is really just, about like discovering what your purpose is versus many other things in your life. And so I kind of found this, like, you'll have to watch it because I don't want to spoil anything, but I just found this weird connection to baptism and kind of understanding your purpose. And I was kind of drawn to thinking, I was baptized as an infant, and I know I've learned a lot about baptism, but part of me was like, oh, I don't know if I've ever actually like dove into the specific words or the process of baptism or the education of it. And so just kind of finding that connection between just my own vocation and my purpose in life in connection to where my life started with baptism. And it was weird how those two things went together, but super good movie recommendation. It's a lot. It's deep too, but it makes you consider a lot of good things.
Interesting.
So check that out. My kids have been really wanting to watch that. It's funny how often Disney portrays sacraments in movies. We would probably do like a whole episode just on that. Maybe it will be this episode, but before that, Chelsea.
Guess what I watched last night?
What was your scripture, Pat? Wait, did you watch The Chosen finally?
I did watch The Chosen last night.
Yes!
I watched
Yay.
episode 1 of The Chosen.
Oh.
Yay!
So good.
But I also watched...
Oh, the end of that one.
Man.
Oh,
It's
God.
the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to that, I also watched the director's commentary. Well, some of the director's commentary. It's a lot.
Yes, afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I didn't watch the beginning because I was like, okay. So I skipped through the beginning, and then I started the episode, and then I ended up watching most of his ending commentary.
Are you talking about the round table with the rabbi and the priest?
No.
Okay.
It was just Dallas Jenkins.
Okay.
And they brought on you've all seen it. Have you seen it? Okay. The woman that plays
Mary Magdalene.
Yeah. And their conversation was beautiful. If you haven't seen that, it was really. But watching him talk about the ending scene, but he talks about how they started The Chosen, and how he was really convicted by the scripture of the feeding of the 5,000 and the loaves and the fish, and which is really, I know, zero coincidence, but one of the readings this week, the gospel, I think Monday, was the feeding of the 5,000, and the following what followed that this week in the following gospels. But I really found it beautiful in him talking about how he just kept coming back to the fact that all that he needed to give Jesus was the loaf and the fish. And like in that gospel, it was like the amount that he could do, and the rest he just had to turn it over and say, like, the rest, like, only Jesus could do was to multiply the food. And it's like, how much trust do we have in like handing Jesus what we have and just trusting that he's going to do the rest? Because it's like, no, I can do it, I got it. But it's like, no, like, only Jesus can do it. And so just, I've really been reflecting on that in the last, I guess, 12, 15 hours. of just handing Jesus the 5 loaves and 2 fish and just being like, okay, it's yours. Like, you have to do the rest. I can't. But yeah, and listening to Dallas Jenkins talk about all that. Yes, it's I'm not totally sold, but I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It was hard to start. The beginning of it was hard, and you're like, okay, come on, come on.
That episode moves slow.
It's very slow.
Because you're trying to figure out what it is, because that's probably the episode that has the least amount of characters that you really know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know Nicodemus from the Bible, but you don't know Nicodemus like the apostles, right?
Right.
Jesus isn't even in the first episode until the last. I'm spoiling it. I don't care.
The last, 3
You
minutes.
had your
Yeah.
time. The last 2 minutes of the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Because you're like, where the heck did you come from?
and there's a character who goes by the name of Lily, and it's like we don't know of any
Yeah.
What is
Lilies
happening,
in
yeah.
Scripture, so this is very odd. So you're watching that whole dynamic. The Pharisees, for most Christians who have very little insider understanding into Pharisee and Sadducees,
Right.
are watching this and just going, what is all of this? And then it hits that last clip, that last scene where he goes into the bar and he holds her hand
Uh-huh.
and she walks out and he calls her by name, and I got goosebumps right now
Yeah.
just thinking about it. It's just like,
Oh shoot.
and now that you've gotten to that point, each one is just gonna it's the only comparison that I have in terms of the way it goes is like it's a snowball effect. And by the time you get to the scene where Nicodemus and Jesus are together on the rooftop, or Nicodemus's decision to travel or not travel with Jesus, or the healings and all of those things, it's an avalanche. It's
Right.
amazing, and it's just like, because even like as a person that like, I love the Scripture. Like I enjoy spending my time in the Scripture.
Right.
Watching this and the production value that they've
Mhm.
put into it, it's like, all of my favorite things for the last 18 years that are not my wife and children are coming to life on my TV. It's so fun.
It's so
Yeah.
fun, right?
So
Well, and watching that episode, like, literally come full circle, because you're going, what?
yeah,
And then, like, how she, like, turns around and she's like, how do you know who I am?
yeah,
Like, I don't understand.
yeah. It just gives her a hug.
And he gives her a hug.
Ah,
Well, and then he starts recite, like, the scripture from the beginning, and you're like, oh!
the prayer,
Ah!
the prayer that she knows.
She knows.
Yes,
Father,
yeah.
yeah. it's
Yeah.
okay.
And you're like, because that kept coming back through the whole thing, and you're like, why is this a running thread?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went, bingo!
Well,
like,
and that's another part of it that's really interesting. As we just need to do a bunch of coffee chats on The Chosen.
I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Once they
Dallas
start
Jenkins,
to
where you
go
at, buddy?
into,
Jonathan
uh,
Rumi.
Once they start to go into the discussion of her,
Hey, don't ruin it. Just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
yeah, no, I'm ruining it. Once they go into the
I'm
fact
totally
that
kidding.
now, the next episode when you see her, how different she is. And that's where you really get the conflict that begins to happen between the Pharisee and Sadducees. Again, there's not a lot of spoiler alerts if you've gone to Mass.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm
Yeah.
just
Read the
being
Gospels,
funny about
like,
it.
Yeah.
The spoiler alerts are written out by the autographed copy of the
The
Bible
autographed copy
that
of
you
the
can
gospel.
get on Amazon for $12 million. Yeah.
I think it was actually on I think it was on like Etsy.
Oh.
Interesting.
It was on the eBay.
On the eBays.
The eBay's Bert.
Yeah, Dallas Jenkins, Jonathan Rumi. Man, thank you guys so much. I assume you're not actually going to sit through this coffee chat, but if you do, thank you for one of the truest forms of the new evangelization that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's so good. I'm
Well-
so excited for season 2.
I
They've
know, I've
done
got
all the funding. They're starting funding, I think, now for even
I think
season 3.
they're
I think.
filming. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm super, super excited.
Well, he was talking about like the crowdfunding for it, and
Yeah.
but when I watched it, I think there's multiple. I don't know what the word, like streams of it on YouTube. Like, because they did a live feed.
Yeah.
Supposedly one night. It was like supposedly 7 or 8 days, because however many episodes they did of Dallas coming on YouTube and doing commentary before and after and interviews and whatnot. But just that stream had almost 900,000 people that had watched it.
Oh yeah, no, they've definitely got
like,
momentum on their side. It has, and this goes back to when the pandemic all started. And you and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday. When all this started, we all didn't know what to do with ourselves. So naturally, most of us at some point in time went down some sort of rabbit hole of Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever it is.
Right.
And for some reason, this just kept popping up in my Facebook ads, like annoyingly. And it kept being like, it's the Jesus thing that you actually would want to watch. And I'm like, yeah, no, I've been sold that lie plenty of times.
Plenty of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have gone to priests who recommend movies for reconciliation. And I love that priest for doing that, but they are not always good movies.
It's rarely a good movie.
And then
And you're like, oh, that one.
you started to see, like, I think we talked about once upon a time on one of the coffee chats, Paul the Apostle. Very well done. The one about...
Full of Grace that they did is really good.
The one about the Centurion guard who was put in charge of...
Oh, Risen.
Risen.
Yeah.
That
a lot
one
of it
was
kind
really
of
well
but
done.
there were some really good
They
moments.
started
Yeah.
picking up. You got momentum, but there were still some things where you're like, why is Noah talking with a Scottish accent? I need to build a bigger boat.
Told you to build a boat.
You know, and it's like, wait, what was that? Yeah. So you had these little things, whereas this one, like, you watch the first episode and if you know who some of the players are that are being shared, you're in, you know? And then, right, they get you at the end, for sure. For everyone, they get you at the end.
Yeah.
And so they found the right formula. And then it just, I mean, it was like a wildfire. So I think my wife and I, we watched it in March or April. It was really early on because I think we had gotten through, there was a documentary about a tiger thing. I don't know if anybody wants to remember that it happened on Netflix.
I never
we got
watched
through,
it.
We got
I never
through
watched
that.
the tiger
And
documentary.
Yeah, it was rough. But then the very next thing we watched
It's a tiger documentary.
was The Chosen, and I was blown away. I mean, you could probably go back and watch all 35 coffee chats, and I think I've probably talked about it in half of them. Because it's that good.
Yeah. So, question to kind of build off of that, and also it being the Epiphany. So, at the end of the episode, we're talking about how Jesus kind of shows up, and he was just like happened to be next to her in like the restaurant right before,
Yeah.
and she's like, who are you? Like, how do you know me? And it's like, surprise, it's Jesus. And not that she would know that yet, but like she got it was like he just showed up as somebody regular. And we were talking about with the Epiphany, like it was like the three wise men approached, and it was like, here's this baby, and like, hey, by the way, this is God. I'm like, okay. Just kind of this question maybe to pass around of any times that we, among the four of us, or we know of others that have like seen Jesus and didn't expect it. I always think there was a song on like the KLTY a long time ago. It was like Jesus in Surprise. Always made me think of like Jesus like popping out behind corners, like yes. but like, so if that's happened, tell me. But like also, like other times when you're like when God showed up and you're like, oh wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple for myself just to start out of. Well, one that was more unexpected. I was once on a retreat in Arkansas at Subiaco Abbey with the seminary, and I was trying to figure out. I was just praying about something, and I couldn't figure it out, and I was trying to figure this out on my own, and I was getting frustrated with God, and I was walking around the church, and it was dark, and I literally ran into a corner, and like cut my head, and it was bad. And it just
Jesus bought that.
Yeah, it was sort of like that.
Surprise!
I was sitting down later and like putting a Band-Aid on my forehead. It's like don't try and walk around in the dark. Like I had a flashlight and I didn't use it. It's like, well, I use the flashlight. Like wait for God to show you things. And that was such a ridiculous example, but like that was a moment for me when it's just like, hey, no, here's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Surprise. So I don't know if you have other maybe
So
interactions or things.
I have walked into a room that was not lit, and Jesus was in it. So every year when we had our previous crucifix, which is now the welcoming Jesus down in the sanctuary, they would take him down off of the cross. They would put him in the St. Francis house in the corner. And that's where my office was. And every year at Easter time, I would walk in that room at 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday, because it was after we had our life nights. I would open the door, and Jesus would just be standing there like that, and I would yell every single time. I knew he was there sometimes, and I still would yell. A more serious example of this was I went to a Steubenville conference. It was the first parish that I worked at full time. So I was probably 22 at the time. I guess I was 23, because I had been baptized by then. And we went to the Steubenville conference, and we rented 2 12-passenger vans. And we're driving back from Alexandria to Houston. And on our drive back, one of the tires on the van that I was in goes flat. So get out, change the tire. We're driving, and about 20 miles later, a tire goes flat in the other van. And it's like, okay, we are now down 2 spares. Like, we have to make it. We're driving down the road, and about another 20 miles later, another tire goes flat. And we pull into a Sonic. Why there was a Sonic out in the middle of nowhere? I mean, nothing around us. We pull into the Sonic. We send all the teens in. I had one adult that was with, we had one adult, she was the DRE. She had gone in with the kids. And I'm trying to change this spare tire, praying that it somehow, we're going to figure this out. So I have it up on a jack. No, sorry, we left the jack. There was only one jack between the 2 vans, and we left it when we changed the second tire. So I'm standing in the side, like there's this curb, and it's just as far as you can see a field of weeds in every direction except for this sign. And I just got my head down, I'm by the side of this van, and this little like 1980 Toyota Corolla pulls in front of me. And like, do you need help? And I was like, I just need a jack to see if I can get this tire off here. So she gives me the jack out of the back of her car, which says on it like that it has like the lowest weight limit I've ever seen on a jack. It looks like a bicycle jack. And so I got the van all the way up, and I go to loosen the lug nuts. It's got 5 lug nuts, 4 of them, real easy. The 5th one, I cannot move for the life of me. I've got my teens who are like football players jumping on one end while I'm pulling on the other end. Nothing. I'm so mad. And so I send everybody back inside because I had some choice words with the weeds that I will never repeat out loud again, just because I don't like invoking demons onto things. So, Grandma, who was in the Corolla, has her granddaughter with her. She's like all of 6. She comes over, and she puts her hand on my shoulder, and she goes, "Have you just tried praying?" And my immediate thought was, shut up, kid. Come on. Of course I've thought of praying. I'm the youth minister. No, I haven't prayed. It's a love nut. And she's like, can I pray with you? And I was like, oh, gross. Yeah. Little Susie. And she holds my hand, and she goes, just help him to be able to fix whatever he needs. And she's like, okay, you should try it now. And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I go, and I spin the lug nut so hard that the tire iron literally just goes flying into the street. And the whole lug nut just comes off. It was like somebody had greased the thing on the inside and never tightened it. And I was like, who are you? Angel in jeans. So we get the tire off, and they gave us their spare. And I got her address, and we got back to the church, and I sent her a letter. And it just was one of those moments where you didn't expect it. And then when we got in the van, the other thing that I thought was amazing is one of my teens, and I had only been at this parish for like a month. And so I was having a really hard time because the previous youth minister was late for like 25 years. One of the teens just puts their hand on my shoulder, and they said, "You remember the talk during adoration that like the closer you feel to God in the Eucharist, the harder the devil's going to try to distract you? Do you think that's what was happening?" And I'm like, I don't know if the devil popped our tires, but I know a little angel just saved it. So let's roll with that. Let's go.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those moments where it's like there is no God here at Sonic,
Right.
and there he was, and it's
And there
like,
he was,
damn
right.
it. Fine. So yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, little girl. I have no idea who you are. If you're watching, which again you're not.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
So.
Crazier stories have happened
Yeah,
where
that
like
is true.
people reunite, where it was like, I'm that. Have you ever seen those stories where it's like the firefighter or somebody that saved a little kid, and then like
Have you watched season 3 of Cobra Kai?
No, not
the
yet.
little kid ends up being the doctor that saves
Danny LaRusso?
Yeah.
just something crazy like
Wow.
that? No, I've not watched Cobra Kai, and I probably will not.
How? Watch Joseph first. That's fine.
But then again, I also said I would never watch
Chimpanzee riding on
Jason.
a Segway.
Um,
Anyways.
Speaking of people you don't know, I think one of the main moments that I often think of, we were in New Orleans, and we went down to, we were doing a social justice like immersion camp, and we had taken them to New Orleans, and we showed them, it was a group of teenagers, we had probably have 25 of them, and we showed them a video called God Bless the Child. If you've never seen it, old school like 80s 90s movie. I don't cry over anything. You might need a tissue box when you watch this one. Have you ever seen that one? God Bless the Child? You've never seen God Bless the Child?
No.
Oh my gosh, it is like social justice all the way. Man, I feel like we need to have like a movie day or something.
Let's do it.
Just
Anyway.
watch The Passion. Sorry.
So anyway, so we showed them this movie, and I won't give the whole movie away, but part of the movie is a single mom who's in and out of like shelters, and she's very reliant on like soup kitchens and whatever. So part of our thing was we were taking the teens over to the soup kitchen, and they actually were going to get in line and go eat at the soup kitchen. And so, and they had to get there before it closed. And so, like, we knew we had time, but, like, we didn't tell them that. Because some of the movie was, like, her not making it to the like, shelters before the, the curfew. And so we were like, okay, it is now 5:35, and the line closes at 6 o'clock. Good luck. Chelsea's leading the way. So I just take off, and I know exactly where I'm going. They have no idea where we're going. And so, like, we're just walking across, like, downtown New Orleans, and, I'm like, keep up, let's go.
Yeah.
And when I'm on a mission, like, I'm going. So you have all these, like, kids that are in, like, Nike shorts and T-shirts and, like, carrying backpacks, and, like, we end up getting in line at the soup kitchen. And, of course, the second we walk up, everyone knows that we don't fully belong there. But we started having conversations with some of the visitors, and it was primarily a men's shelter soup kitchen. Anybody could go, but that was the main people that they served. And so there were 2 or 3 men that we really connected with. And there was this one guy that we had spoken with, and just the conversations that we had with him, you just kind of assume, and like the young people really assumed that like the men that would be there, didn't have an education, couldn't hold a, like never had any of these opportunities. And like one guy we spoke with, like had multiple degrees, and like just was really down on his luck, and like didn't have a place to live, and like was just so intelligent. And you're like, how does someone end up where this guy is? And then this other man the main leader had spoke with was talking to, shout out Emily Froba. Emily was talking to this guy and ended up just learning a whole lot about him. And like the guy had his entire life in like a rolling suitcase, like a carry-on rolling suitcase, and like another duffel bag. Like, what? And he was dressed in like slacks and a pair of dress shoes and like a white, I would almost say like a white like undershirt. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up learning more and more about his life. And when we left that day, we walked back to we were on a school bus, and the man ended up walking with us. And so we talked to him and we learned more, like he had been going to like job interviews, and that was some stuff they did at that shelter, was help them with job interviews and different things like that, communications. And so I think we ended up giving him like a Bible and rosaries, and he was very into his faith. And I was just very touched in like just the encounter we were having, and nowhere along the way did we end up with this guy's name. But I remember like we had all gotten so connected to this guy in like an hour, where like the teens were just like all talking to him and like fully engaged, and they like didn't want to leave him. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of crazy how it all happened. And I remember pulling off that day and just like we waved to this guy standing on the street corner, and we had learned that he was going the next day, or he was going for like a second interview to be a part of the grounds team for the Saints football team. And so we told him we would pray for him and pray for his interview, and that he'd be able to get everything back together. But I remember him standing there, and like we waved, and I almost got like tears in my eyes of like, why do I feel so attached to this man? And just kind of almost like sad that we just left him. Like this guy I just met 2 hours ago, like not even. And so we left that day, and we were like praying for him and whatnot. And so probably several months later, I was going to speak to one of the Catholic schools in New Orleans about like the corporal and spiritual works of mercy and just service stuff and whatnot. And I was going to share this story and these experiences that we had. And I was driving from Baton Rouge to New Orleans and was going along, and I was like thinking through like how I was going to frame this whole talk and whatnot. And I remember driving off in the bus, and I was standing in the aisle, and the teens were seated and waving off to him and going, why doesn't this guy have a name? Why doesn't this guy, like, why? Like, I don't forget people's names. I just don't, like, it's a great gift that I have. And like, if I know your name now and I see you in 20 years, and I might not have seen you for 20 years, I'd be like, hey, Andrew, hey, Erica. Like, I just don't forget people's names. Why? And all in that moment in prayer of like this hour-and-a-half drive that I had, of realizing like that was Jesus. Like, it didn't matter, like while names are so important, like his name didn't matter in that moment, because that was Jesus being present to us. And so I know that was a long story for all of that, but just realizing that like we get often so caught up in details that I think we often miss like when Jesus is like speaking to us directly, and like where we're encountering him through other people that we meet. And so like I always think of this guy, and I still don't know his name, but I'm like, nope, that was Jesus that day, for all of us. So wherever you are, bud.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.
Praying for you. I hope you have a job now. Seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my my Jesus moment.
Any particular stories? Yeah, it's kind of a.
I haven't. It's not nearly as deep as
No, go for
either
it.
any of those.
Go for
That
it.
was a really extensive story. Sorry.
No, that was awesome.
Me and Andrew busted his head on a wall.
That's true.
That's
So-
true.
I did not buzz my head on a wall.
Don't do that. It's not good.
Okay.
Not that time.
Thinking of car troubles. Jesus always shows up in car troubles. It's a good
Jesus,
time.
take the wheel. Sorry.
Basically.
Sorry.
So y'all know, like a couple weeks, my car broke down. Basically, I was driving from Dallas to Houston, and there's a Buc-ee's that's about a little over halfway in between both places. And my car stalled literally like 45 minutes from that Buc-ee's in like directly in the middle of Houston and Dallas. It was 2 hours for my husband to come, and it was 2 hours for anyone in my family or friends to come. So it was like the worst spot in the middle of nowhere.
Centerville?
Yes.
Which is
so like
Which is
ironic. I was
right
like,
in the center of both of them. That's why it's called that.
It was so interesting.
Yep.
So, super fun time, super stressful. I wasn't having like a super fun time with it, and I listened to way too many like crime podcasts, so I was like, this is it for me. Like someone's coming out.
I'm
of
done.
nowhere.
It's over.
It was like raining and cold, and I was
Know
like,
how this
someone's.
story ends.
I'm about to like. I couldn't like look into the trees because I was like, someone's just gonna come out of there, and that's it for me. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I have to call a tow truck because my car can't make it to the next gas station, and no, I'm not gonna sit here on the
Were you
side
like
of the
on the
highway.
side of the road?
Yeah,
Or were you
like,
in the middle of the highway?
I pulled onto the side of the highway, and then like after 2 minutes, I just like let my car roll into the grass because I was like, that was too close. So it got to the point where I was like, okay, I have to call a tow truck because there's like no other options. But it took me probably 20 minutes to work up the courage to call a tow truck because I was like, they're gonna kill me too. Like I was
Everybody's out to
listening
get
to
you.
I know.
Yeah.
Someone's out to get me. I was listening to some crime podcast like before this had just happened, so I was just in like the worst state mentally for this to happen. So it took me a long time to actually call a tow truck because I was so nervous about the kind of person that was going to come, and I was like, I have to sit in their car. I don't even know where the next gas station is, but I just needed them to drop me off. And so after a while, and I had called someone, and someone was showing up, and I called the nearest place to like give a tow truck, and then a guy called me saying that he was on his way, and I called back the tow company to be like, hey, is this exactly who you're sending? Because I was like, someone could have gotten my information, and went through all these little things to make sure I was going to be like super safe with it. And then this little old man drives up in a tow truck, sweetest person I have ever met. He came up to me and he's like, are you having a hard day? And I was like, yes, I am. And he grabbed grabbed all my bags and put them in his car, and like didn't even really have me like pull up the car in a tow truck. He just went and like literally took care of everything. Like I was pretty hands off, which is probably, he could tell I wouldn't be able to help it by any means anyways. And so he ended up it's like a 15-minute drive to the nearest gas station, and he just went on telling me about his grandkids, and he had said something about like how I reminded him like one of his granddaughters, and told me about his family and just like all this really sweet stuff. And then whenever we pulled up to the next kind of like closest intersection, there was like 4 or 5 gas stations around. So I was just assuming he would take me to any one of them, and he dropped me off at the only one that one looked like the nicest of like the 4 or 5. 2, it had a Taco Bell attached to it. And if you want to know anything about me, it's that I can't live without Taco Bell.
Yes.
So the fact that he pulled in and he dropped me right in front of it, and he was so sweet. He's like, now you can go get something to eat. And I was like, oh my gosh, like
You just don't even understand.
Right.
You don't even understand. So by the time he left, like, it was kind of one of the things, I never got his name. I don't even remember the name of, like, the company that he worked with. I've been meaning to call and, like, thank whoever it is. But I was, like, reflecting on it now, I'm like, oh, that was, my guardian angel or Jesus, whoever it was,
Somebody
to
got
drop me
involved
off
there.
in front of a Taco Bell in the middle of nowhere. I was like, I had never seen a Taco Bell on that drive the years that I've been making that drive, like, in the middle of nowhere. It was amazing. Worst and best day of my life.
Yeah.
Worst and best day.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, I can't think of where a Taco Bell is on that drive. I've made that drive a lot of times. I can't think of where that would be. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mystery Jesus.
Yeah.
Mystery
I love
Jesus,
Mystery
always
Jesus.
around.
I've got one last quick story. I know we're getting close to that time.
That time.
Which I don't want to compromise that time.
Everybody run.
They're good today. Get ready.
Get out while you still can. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's good. it actually involves. Well, you were both there. Sorry, you weren't there, but I'm sure you. Yeah. Anyway, we were on retreat last fall, so November 2019 or whatever, with the high schoolers, and at the time we had talked about making this transition of me coming on as a junior high person, but it was all kind of secret because we weren't sure how or when or if it was going to work out, and we didn't want like the teens to be worried about it on retreat or even the core team and things. So we went on this retreat, and that was sort of my preoccupation the whole time, was just like, yes, like help the teens out, be with them, but also like help.
It's okay, we all felt the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we all did, and but we were there, and on top of that, I was just like had this really bad stomach ache in the middle of the day. And I don't know if you remember that. I ate like all of the Tums in the first aid kit, just like drank the whole jar of Tums, and it didn't help. And you were like, drink some Topo Chico. And I was like, no way that's going to help. And it did. So somehow that helped. But then...
Thank you, Topo Chico.
Yeah, so thanks, Topo Chico. That was
Shout
part of
out.
it. But so I was still just feeling kind of weird, and then I had a talk that I was going to give. I was supposed to give like the Sunday or the Saturday evening talk, whenever that was. And it was supposed to be like right after the next event, after I was feeling sick. And then Paul, you and I were talking about some of the conversations we'd had with some of the teens, and I was just like super anxious about everything because I was worried about my talk, and I wasn't sure what I was going to say, and I was worried about the whole transition coming up and just feeling sick and everything, and then just a dozen other personal things on top of that, of course. And then we talked for like 10 minutes walking around the campus about like something that one of the teens had said, or some other issues that some of them were having that like a couple of them had mentioned, and you were like, yeah, we should talk about that. Why don't we move your talk to later? I'm going to talk about this for a minute. And then we all went into the...
As all my talks are prepared.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that was... Yeah. If I haven't mentioned this before, that alone is just crazy enough, because you just sat down we started the next session, and you sat down and were just like, you gave this incredible talk for like 30 minutes on, and you brought in like examples from your own personal life and about that same thing that we had been talking about. And it was just crazy for me, because in that moment, I just was reassured that like, I saw it within just your own talk and in your own, like, just the way that you had been acting throughout that whole day of, like, I saw the way that Christ cares for his people, and the way that, like, you were not only in, like, the stories that you shared, because they were some very personal things that really went perfectly with what you were trying to say, and not having planned it at all, which was just amazing, but also just, like, the reminder that, if... like God's going to take care of all of these things that are going on. Like whatever talk you're going to give, like don't worry about it. This opportunity that's coming up, like God's going to take care of it. Just stick with Jesus, and He's going to do the work that needs to be done. Yeah. So I want to thank you personally for that, but also just that was one example for me that of just like, and I think it's cool. Like looking at all of the stories we mentioned, like it was when we were most like anxious or frustrated or worried or lost or something, or you're late to the soup kitchen, and I mean just everything was going wrong, and it's that moment when Jesus showed up and was like, hey, I got you, we're gonna get through this. I just think that's really cool. So
I think
one more example.
I think sometimes with that talk, I think the biggest thing when you and I were discussing, because it was a situation that was going on with one of the teens, we knew what was going on and they didn't. And that always makes it hard. Like sitting there looking from my perspective at this is the last one. Like this is my swan song, right? So to speak. Like we knew the transition was eventually going to happen. But we didn't know exactly when, but we knew this was pretty much
probably going to be the last retreat,
so I was looking at it from the perspective of like, oh, this is it. Which was both relieving and very difficult at the same time, because I know the reasons behind that decision having to be made were very personal. Like I needed to take back time with my family, was the biggest thing, and I also knew that I had the two most capable people coming into that position, but I know neither one of you believed that at the time, and that both of you had those doubts because of conversations you and I had, And then the conversation came from a teen on the outside. And I realized instantly that all of the worries and all of the feelings that we were having, we were kind of forcing onto a God who doesn't change. Like, he's not going to suddenly shove a round peg through a square hole. He's not going to change. And so it's going to happen the way he wants it to happen. We have to do something, and the word is a word that we use and we look at it in a very negative way. And that word is surrender. We don't like to hear that word because that makes us weak. But in every single one of those moments that we're talking about, we had to surrender ourselves to something greater than ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, absolutely. You texted us when that happened, and we all sat there going, text us before you get murdered.
Yeah.
Like, we were all in the same boat. Apparently we're all listening to the same podcast. Because it's like, poor Erica. Like, I texted you, like, individually on the side. Please check in with me as soon as you get somewhere. Because, I mean, you know, and then you said Taco Bell.
Are you sure you're okay? I'm coming for you.
Yeah, like, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I wonder if I just get in the car right now if I'll make it in time. Like, let me check with Danielle. The kids are about to go to bed. Like, I think I can handle this. Like, what is happening? Yeah, I mean, but what, you know, Andrew was like, is somebody coming to get you? Like, what's it, you know? But when you surrender to that, and it takes time, right? It's not easy for any of us. I mean, I even in that conversation where it was like, we're going to push yours back so that we can address this right away. It's only by the grace of God, and I very much know this, that my ability to be successful in ministry for 20 years is because I am terrible and God is great. And so I will get up there and vomit the voice of God because clearly, left to my own devices, you have all heard things that have come out of my mouth, and they are not good, you know. And so it's just, yeah, God is good, and praise God for that. There have definitely been times when I've given talks and it was me talking, like about shopping carts, and then times where God was speaking through me. You know, we had that, and then the year before that on our fall retreat when it was like, hey, Dave Moore's going to give this talk, and Dave was like, no, I'm not. You're giving this talk, and we're eating dinner, and I'm like, well, when is it? And he's like, right after dinner. And I'm like, cool, I need a index card and a pen. And I wrote down 3 words and gave a 15-minute talk that afterwards he was like, easily top 3 talk I've ever heard.
It was
and I'm
really
like,
good.
coming from Dave Moore, that's a little bit of a thing. So, all right, so yes, God is good all the time. I do think it's important for us to surrender to that. Like the Magi with the Epiphany. See how we
Nice.
pretty little bow.
Came full circle.
Wow.
There it is.
Put that bow on it, Paul.
Lightning round.
It's that time.
Nope, sorry. Almost got. Gotta work on that. Yes.
It could be lightning and thunder, or it could be missile attack. Remember that old game on the computer, the missile attack?
Oh yeah.
You had like the green hills.
No.
Yeah.
You know, back when computers were like 8-bit machines.
I thought you were talking about like skeet shooting.
Duck hunt?
Duck hunt?
The
That's
dog.
about it.
The noise just was
And then your duck.
Like, I know what you're talking about. What?
You've never seen
No,
Duck Hunt?
I know, but also just the fact that
Adam
all those
Card,
noises-
you're watching. You can verify all of that was a legitimate sound effect.
That was. No, they were.
I
I've done
believe
it.
you. I just.
All right, here we
I wasn't
go.
ready for it. Oh my goodness.
It's time. What order are we going in? That just happened.
Sorry. Paul
Doesn't matter anymore.
broke himself.
All right.
All right.
We're going to go Paul,
Again,
Erica,
not God speak.
Paul, Erica, Andrew, me.
Okay.
All
My
right.
coffee's empty.
My coffee's cold.
Oh.
All right, you ready?
Uh-oh.
We got
Sure.
a timer?
Yes.
Did the feed stop?
No, it didn't. Your computer stopped.
Maybe my computer stopped because I closed it in the frustration of my own duck hunting.
Nope, I think we're good.
All right then.
No, we are still.
It was the
We are
duck
still
hunt.
going. We still have viewers.
Yay.
Thank you, viewers, for hanging on. We
We're
are.
so sorry for the end of this.
You're amazing.
Derailed.
Anyway, here we go.
Ready?
Paul, Erica, Andrew, me, and go. Snow or rain?
Snow.
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 Snow. Bath or shower?
Shower.
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 Sorry, that was so.
Swim every day or dance every day?
Swim every day.
Dance?
Swim.
Swim. Be the richest person in the world or the smartest person in the world?
Smartest.
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 Richest.
You could just make really good investments all the time. And then,
Huge imagination or
I could be
photographic
the- I could
memory?
be the second richest.
There you go.
What is it?
Huge imagination or photographic memory?
Photographic memory.
Photographic memory.
Yeah, that would be super cool. Photographic memory.
That would have been
Photographic
nice.
memory.
Yeah.
Would you rather have a pet tiger or a pet lion?
Lion. Dang it, I don't know. Lion.
I think lion.
I'm gonna go with lion because of the Netflix
Oh,
documentary.
that's true.
Tiger.
Oh my.
No tigers.
Bears.
Bears. There you go.
Only eat healthy food or only eat junk food?
Junk food. I know who I am.
Yeah.
Healthy food, because I gotta make that change.
Because I should. Yeah,
Because I need that option.
I should probably say healthy foods, but I'm not happy about it.
Healthy food.
You guys are all lying to yourselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, I think I would choose healthy food because I know how terrible I feel when I eat junk food.
Erica, Taco Bell, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I take back my answer.
I don't know that this one will
Taco Bell.
actually make sense if you've never seen these movies or shows, but would you rather be Matilda? Do you know who Matilda is? Okay, thank you, because they don't. Or be 11.
Who's they? Oh.
11.
Matilda.
You're talking about 11 from Stranger Things?
Yes.
11.
Matilda, you know,
Matilda.
I hadn't thought about that. Like that.
Oh.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, 11, just because it's Stranger Things.
Matilda.
Dude, I killed the Upside Down. Matilda
I'd
just
rather Matilda.
hangs upside down on an umbrella. Is that the book
Matilda
cover?
pours her milk
No.
and cereal by
You gotta see the
looking at
movie.
it.
Is that the bear that wears corduroys?
No.
What?
No,
Nope,
that's
that's
No.
Corduroy the bear.
That's corduroy.
I
Okay, moving on.
am
You
just
need to watch the movie
affirming
Matilda.
The Paul talk.
An ice cream. Would you rather an ice cream cake or a bakery cake?
Oh, what?
An ice cream cake or a normal cake?
No.
Okay.
I called it I said a bakery cake, like they would
okay.
make at a bakery.
I was like, do they make ice
Do
cream
bakeries
stores?
make ice cream?
I'll have an ice cream cake.
Ice cream cake. I'm just gonna put ice cream on top of it.
Yes. Same for them.
Ice cream cake. Would you rather sweat slime or sweat honey?
Honey.
Honey.
Yeah, honey, it's gross either way, but
That's
like
how I get
at
all the
least it
bees.
tastes good.
We're just gonna have some gross ones here.
At least it tastes good.
Would you
Yeah,
rather?
like it's gonna be yeah.
Would you rather eat food that looks disgusting or smells disgusting?
Looks.
Looks, yeah.
Yeah, I can I
I
can
can
close my eyes.
I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
close my
Totally,
nose.
yeah.
Looks disgusting. Would you rather be a teacher or a principal?
Teacher.
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 Teacher. Would you rather play a board game or a card game?
Bored.
Card.
Oh, bored.
I'm gonna go with board game.
Board game. Would you rather run a marathon or bike the Tour de France?
Tour de France.
Yeah. What is that? Tour de France?
Whatever that one was. Yeah.
Would you rather run a long ways or bike a long
Oh,
ways?
bike. Yeah.
Like just because you can
Tour
see
de-
more stuff.
Tour de France would be cool.
Yeah.
Bike, yeah.
You
Okay,
get a
last
cool
one.
yellow jacket
Yeah.
if you win.
If you win.
Read a letter
Scarlet?
from your past self or read a letter from your future self.
Hmm.
Letter from my past self. That would be hilarious.
Future self.
I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with future self, but I'll say I don't. As long as they're not like weird about it in the future. As long as they don't tell me too much. They, me.
Hey, you.
I'm gonna write a letter now to my future self, telling me what to write back to
Don't
my
forget
current
to
self.
wear
There you
that
go.
green shirt on Thursday.
And it worked.
Hey!
Hey!
How did you remember?
There you go.
I'll go with future self. I'll go with future self.
Is that it?
Figure out what's good. That's all I got.
Did I pause it? I paused it. Yay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We
well,
started really strong. I was
Yeah.
in the zone. I was
First,
like,
that's
I'm not
probably
gonna.
all-
and
that's
then
probably
I-
all.
Just yeah.
And Andrew didn't answer too many with questions.
That's true.
We did okay.
You
Did
did
not?
not answer any answers with a question.
Touche. Touche.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for
Bye,
joining
everybody.
us.
Happy New Year. See you next week.
If you have comments, questions, suggestions on anything, let us know in the
Comments?
comments.
Chats?
Yes.
Or email us at our email.com.
Phone calls, letters, carrier pigeons.
Yes, carrier pigeons preferably.
Or
We got
preferred.
windows. You know, we'll be
Yes. It's
Anyway,
a woodpecker
bye.
window.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next time.